because you're choosing between, you're not just grabbing everybody, most likely. You're not taking everybody off the list. You're making decisions about which ones are going to be the best fit. And you need to know when you're looking at someone, even then. But the more, even with tech jobs, the more the job involves interacting with people, okay, teamwork, various things like that, the more critical your suitability portions are. That starts to become much more important. If we're talking about sales and things like that, much more important than how eligible they are, okay, in most cases, much more. Customer service absolutely dwarfs the eligibility portion, okay? It's more 70%, 30%. 70% suitability, 30% eligibility. So we need to get a glimpse of view into this area of what suitability is. The great thing is that simultaneously to getting what people want from employment and what's important to them, we can actually get all of this information as well. So simultaneously we can look at the combination of what do they have, what do they want, what do they need, and also what do we need even in terms of suitability, okay, which is the beautiful thing. So what we find is our interviews and interviews for our customers change the very nature of the interview. Did you find that when the interviews? The very nature of the interview changes. It becomes a collaboration, basically. It becomes a discussion about alignments and how we can get alignment and what's important. And generally the facts are on the table, even in terms of suitability. Usually in interviews people don't put the suitability factors on the table. In interviews, your objective is to put your best foot forward, right? Is to say, is to basically say what you think they want to hear. Okay? That's the biggest challenge. So suitability is very difficult to measure. In an interview, very challenging. I've had a lot of training in psychology that I can do if I have a strategic means of assessing their behavior or looking at the suitability portion. I can't even come close to it. And I have lots of practice, lots of years of counseling and coaching and training and, observing people and things like that. I can't even come close to what an instrument can do that looks at these things. So it's very critical that we see the whole picture, basically. Not just eligibility, but also suitability when we're engaging people. Suitability has the fantastic means of being able to engage people, at the same time enabling you to see, do they fit the behavioral aspects of the job? Okay. Even, for example, with programmers, you hire a programmer in and you want to put them into a job where there's no people interaction whatsoever, and the person's got a 10 out of a 10 on outgoing, okay? You've got a problem. Okay? They're 10 out of 10 on outgoing. They are not going to want to sit in front of that computer screen for 8 hours a day. And they might do it for a little while, but pretty soon they're going to say, nah, this isn't working well for me. So you're better off right from the beginning to recognize that and say, oh, by the way, actually, we do have positions open that have a lot of customer service interaction and a lot of interaction with people. How about we draw you into that? I can see that you're, in the interactions with people is very, very important to you. In addition to the technology, let's put you into that kind of a role rather than to a pure technical role. How does that sound to you? Okay? So you're engaging people in a way that you couldn't, where you have information that you didn't have before, basically. Okay? Very, very useful to do that. In fact, in our system, we take all of these factors and we put them in together. How do they succeed? And this is core knowledge on steroids. Okay? You look and see, what do people actually need to succeed? What do they need in terms of their eligibility? What do they need in terms of their suitability? And quantify those things. Not just a laundry list of things, but actually quantify them. How important are they? Okay? What's the impact? And go to significant detail of those things. You were using some of our job success 4 minutes, right? One of the key differences that has is it brings people into alignment. Some of the things I heard you talking about is, okay, the HR manager's got one idea. the line manager's got a different idea about what's wanted and needed. What a job success formula does is it gets people in back and say HR really screwed up again, right? Instead, we look and see, okay, our formula maybe needs some adjustment in terms of what we're looking for. This brings in a lot of very creative ideas also about what we can look for, how we can make sure that we're not screening things out that we don't need to screen out. It takes a really hard look at it, right? Some of our customers, have said that this kind of process, first of all, saves them a lot of effort. There's an automation to it. So when you look at the eligibility, instead of going through resumes to try and figure out how people fit with the job, your targeted questions tell you immediately. So it saves you a lot of time and a lot of effort. And by looking at the combination, our ability to predict whether they're going to succeed is much, much greater. At the same time, we've engaged them. And we've engaged them in a very powerful way. So that's the recruitment piece. Management development and leadership skills and that sort of thing. When we do our suitability assessment, it brings to light a whole series of issues. And in fact, inside of the system is a lot of elements that relate to people's leadership and management skills and ability. It looks at their styles as well. And it particularly looks at this. We found the paradox to be especially engaged, yes. Yeah. So the paradox basically says that no trait in and of itself is necessarily good or bad. It can be good and it can be bad. So if we say, for example, if it doesn't have other traits that complement it, the good thing can become a bad thing. So if they're not able to manage stress really well, they get very stressed out, they burn out, we lose them, lots of problems because of that. Okay? Or if they're not also have some people orientation, right? They're probably going to run over people in order to get where they want to get with their career. Also a problem, especially when we have some kind of a team environment. So when we look at traits, we look at what do people actually need. What do they need for that trait to be a good thing? Okay? So typically I hear people say, well, we want A, B, C, and D. We want this trait, this characteristic, and all of that's correct. But the problem is the trait in its good form or is it in its bad form? Okay? If it's in its good form, it absolutely works. If in its bad form, it's counterproductive. And the good thing becomes a bad thing. So it's that kind of strategy that also is considered when we look at behavioral traits. So we talk about promoting someone to a management position, and we want to move them from where they are now, they're performing well. How do we know that they're going to perform well in that management position? Well, we have a whole series of formulas that relate to different types of management positions that we can bring up and look and see what are the characteristics that make people successful in management. And what are the details of that? What are the paradoxical traits that we need to see in order for people to succeed in the management type of situation? And we can then use that to develop people into those type of positions and to make decisions about whether they're actually ready to do that. A lot of people have no idea what they're getting into when they're promoted. We take our best techie, we put them into our management position and they become our worst manager, and we've lost our best techie and got our worst manager, okay? It's a very big problem, right? So we want to know how else for that matter. And quite different behaviors that you're looking to have. So we want to see, are they able to fit that role well, and to what degree? I like mathematics, so I want to know how much. How much is the fit? And from our observation, if people have a 70% fit or 75% fit with a new role, then we know we can develop them in that role. If they have a less than that, we know it's going to be a tough means to develop it. It's going to be difficult, and we're going to have to be careful about doing that. Well, even more importantly, we know exactly where the pain points are going to be. So if we do decide we're going to promote somebody, we know where the weaknesses are. We know what is going to be the challenges of that person. So instead of waiting 6 months or a year or whatever to find out, the person just completely resists, enforcing any rules under them, which is then creating a problem. We know that right from the beginning. So we might say, yes, they're fantastic in every way as a manager, except they have this challenge. And we'll monitor that right from the start, making that whole process much more successful. So the essence is we're getting inside the heads of people to really see what's important to them and what are their tendencies and how does that fit different jobs. I believe in job assessment. I don't believe in test assessment. Okay? So if you test people for their personality, it's a very limited use. If you test people for their fit for jobs, it has a great use. It has a fantastic means. But that means that you're able to look at the person in relationship to different jobs and different roles. And not just, these are the traits of the person, this is the tendency of the person. Very, very difficult to then make good decisions on that basis. So that's a picture, sort of a whole broad picture of what we do. We can also use one about putting artists together with your technology people. That must be very challenging to do. So, and we would be able to open reflective is how much you look at. So for example, with a team building, we can put people into this inventory, and then we look and see how they score in this, and then we can see each other. So for example, the pink dots, that could be your artistic group, and the yellow dots could be your technology group. And what you'll find is that they'll tend to skew in different areas, and those will be the areas where they have the most difficult time interacting with each other. Okay. So as a process of team building, you can then open up a lot of discussion and have a lot of really positive interaction about how we can work together more effectively. And it's a report that we give to the recruiter. It says, if you want to attract this person, if they're the person that you would like to hire, this is how you can engage them. These are the most critical points. The ones on the top are the most important things to that person. And this is how you can then engage them to get them to come work for you. Okay. This is a report we call a job success analysis. It looks at the person's scores in relationship to the job. So you can see in this case, this particular job is called Human Resource Manager. So takes initiative is the most critical element we have in this particular form of Human Resource Manager. This person scores really well on that. Wants a challenge is the next most important. Interest in business and finance would be the next most important in this case. And we're able to see how people score on this. This we would often use for development. If we use it for recruitment, it has a score on it. For example, like this, for recruitment, it looks like something like this, where we have a thermometer. And it gives the recruiter an overall score that considers both eligibility and suitability. It's completely customizable, so it enables you to customize exactly what you want in terms of suitability and exactly what you want in terms of eligibility, and weight the importance of it as you see it. So you may see the importance. It enables you also to enter in an interview score. So during the interview process, you'll gain further insight. You enter in that score, and it'll get looked at the whole thing. A common idea. And so once having had our job success formula set, we're able to then see actually how people score. So we're not having recruiters make interpretations about specific scores based on how much they like the person or not. We're doing it in a more systematic and direct way. Some of the other things, one of the things that if you look at a level of 75% enjoyment, at the point in which they enjoy their job 75%, they're more likely to succeed in the job. As the enjoyment level goes up with the job, they're much more likely to succeed. Also, retention is also related as well to how much people enjoy the job, obviously. If the person likes less than 75% of their job, the chances of succeeding in the job are not too good. Worldwide research, all across the globe, in India as well. It's common sense, isn't it? You know, if you think about going to work and doing something that you don't like doing, it's not real appealing, is it? It is not. It doesn't engage your passion, okay, for your job. If your passion's engaged, much more likely you're going to succeed at the job. Here's a typical scenario that we get when we look at employment. You'll get a list of 3 or 4 things that says this is what we're looking for.